It's official. The Cleveland Browns are sticking with Shedeur Sanders as their starting quarterback, and it's the right call by Kevin Stefanski. We'll talk about it coming up on the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Dog Pound? I'm Spencer German, your host of the Locked On Browns podcast. I'm proudly covering your Cleveland Browns each and every single day in the land and on the road. Kevin Stefanski made his announcement on Monday. He's sticking with Shedeur Sanders as the team's starting quarterback. It's the right one. Why it's okay if that Sanders needed a little bit of time behind the scenes, and the future is bright for the Browns with this rookie class. So much so that it may just save everyone's job. I do want to thank you for being on every day with the Locked On Browns podcast, making us your first listen every single day. And I do also want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup is played. And yes, Kevin Stefanski announced officially on Monday. Didn't waste any time. Didn't prolong the conversation until Wednesday. He made it known that he'll be sticking with Shedeur Sanders under center moving forward into week 13. He was asked later on if he's treating this as like a week-to-week thing where it's like, depending on how the guy plays, maybe we'll make a switch or whatever. And he said he's only focused on this week, a classic Kevin Stefanski answer. Obviously, I expect nothing less there. But he did make it clear that he's sticking with Shedeur Sanders and that he's going to be the starting quarterback for this football team in week 12 at the very least, or week 13, at the very least, as they get ready for this matchup with the San Francisco 49ers. And listen, I talked about it a ton in the postgame show. This is the right call. I have no reservations about this being the decision that's made. I think we had seen Dillon Gabriel to this point sort of run his course. That's not to say Dillon Gabriel can't get better as time goes on, and that Dillon Gabriel doesn't have a future in this league in some sort of role. But I admire the fact that the Browns were willing to give him time to sort of see things through and give him a leash to sort of develop and grow on his own and figure things out with in-game meaningful reps. That all those things are important. And I'd expect the same grace to be given to Shedeur Sanders, who I think is the more talented of the two quarterbacks anyway. So I was okay with them trying to sort of experiment with that and see it through and give him some time. Unfortunately, he suffers the concussion. Shedeur takes over. He gets his opportunity. And you never want to see a job lost or taken that way due to injury. But sometimes that's just the nature of football and how these things play out. So it's unfortunate that it was lost that way for Dillon. But Shedeur got his opportunity. And I think on Sunday against the Raiders, he absolutely made the most of it. We went through all the reasons, obviously, in the postgame show, but it was the fact that the offense scored 24 points, and it was largely on their own. I know they had the one sort of easier touchdown drive because Gage Larvidan set him up with the short field on the first score. I know that but it wasn't like the defense obviously played phenomenal, but there was no turnovers from the defense that basically set you up where you're right on the doorstep of a touchdown. There was no defense having to score for you or getting a pick six or whatever it might be and gifting you a touchdown. It was the offense largely functioning on its own. They seemed more effective in moving the football than they had in previous games. Yes, there were still some 3-and-outs. Yes, there were still some efficiency issues. Yes, there were still some of the same problems that have bothered this team all season. Jerry Jeudy fumbling a ball, which is just a big letdown on a promising drive there. Something that Kevin Stefanski said, like they know and he knows he has to be better and make sure he protects that football. But yes, like some of those same issues persisted. But by and large, I felt like there was a different energy about the offense. I think Shedeur's energy and confidence sort of rubbed off on the rest of the team and the rest of that unit. And I thought the offensive line probably played maybe its best game all season. I'll say that. And you saw Shedeur making in-game adjustments or like showing you that he's learned already in 7 months in the NFL by stepping up in the pocket more, by trying to run. I mentioned it, but like there was a sack early in this game. I think it was in the first quarter where he does get sacked in the end. But what I loved about the play was that he didn't drift in the pocket and make the sack a bigger problem than what it was going to be. He didn't drift back and lose like 15 more yards. He stepped up to his left, found a little lane to try to run. He tried to get out of it and make a play. Unfortunately, he still got chased down, but it was he didn't make the problem worse. And that was me realizing, and that was him showing you that he's learned some things already about how to navigate that position, how to navigate the pocket, how to become a better player. And I found value in that. I found value in the way that he just carried himself with the offense. And then there was the obvious, the throw to Isaiah Bond, which we're all still in awe of, that he was able to make such an incredible play, and a couple other shots downfield that he took, which we just have not seen from Dillon Gabriel. I mean, Shedeur did things in his first start that I don't think we've seen Dillon do in 5.5 games that he had played. So as much as I understand, and we're going to talk about it coming up, they evaluated these two guys and felt Shedeur was behind, and I think it's okay to say he probably needed some work and some time behind the scenes, which we'll get to work on some things. He got his opportunity and he made the most of it, and I think he showed you a little bit more even than what Dillon had shown to this point. And I think that also just goes back to the talent level there. I think Shedeur is a more talented player overall, and when the lights are brightest, I've talked about this before, he's a gamer. When the lights were on, when he had his moment, he didn't waste it. He went out there, he balled in certain respects and did some nice things and showed off he deserved to keep the starting job, and he will now moving forward. Listen, this was the right decision based on what we saw on Sunday. I think it would have been very difficult for Kevin Stefanski to go in that locker room and say to those guys, hey, listen, we know Shedeur played well and that the offense maybe did some things that we haven't seen all year, but we're going to go back to Dillon Gabriel. I don't know that would have totally lost in the locker room, because these guys all seem pretty steady in their responses about, hey, we're going to go to bat for whoever's back there under center. And they sort of navigated the quarterback changes all this season and even last season as best they could, and seemed to trust the process on that. But I don't know that you can, as a head coach, convince this locker room that that would have been the best option moving forward with the way that Shedeur played yesterday. It wasn't perfect. I think everyone can admit that. It was not a perfect performance by any stretch, but you saw some signs, you saw some progress, you saw some growth, and there's, at this point, like I said, you had exhausted the Dillon Gabriel experiment where you weren't necessarily seeing that growth. And I think now, the last thing this team needs the rest of the season was to figure out what they have in their other rookie quarterback. That was the last big box they had to check to find out, do you need to draft another one in 2026? That's kind of the end goal here. That's kind of what you're hoping to do. And so I think at this point, with 7 games to go, going into yesterday, 6 games to go now, the goal is how does Shedeur look out there? How does he grow and develop when he gets a legitimate chance and an opportunity to start? And maybe he doesn't finish out the year if it goes poorly. I think, but he's at least earned himself the chance to prove otherwise. He's at least earned himself the chance to go out there and try to cement himself as the starter. And who knows, maybe it ends this season with him. If the worst thing that comes out of this is he leaves the Browns with a question about whether or not they have their franchise quarterback or not, or they need to invest in another quarterback this offseason, and he throws a wrench into that. Because I think right now, even after yesterday's performance, I'm still leaning towards the idea that I think the Browns are still planning on drafting a quarterback in 2026 in the draft. I could be wrong, but that's my feeling on it. If you get through these next 6 games, Shedeur starts them all, and you see him continuing to grow the way that I think they're hoping he does, and the worst thing that happens is he leaves the Browns questioning if they do need to draft a quarterback, I think that's a successful run with him. And I think that's a successful sort of end of the season here as you set yourself up for whatever your offseason plans are going to be. So I'm ecstatic about this. This was always what I felt like needed to happen. You needed to be able to evaluate these guys. I understand 5 to 7 games is not going to make a career, and there's still going to be a lot we have to learn about these guys moving forward. But you needed to at least see what you had in both, see what both could do in the structure of this offense, which has its own problems and deficiencies, as we know. And Shedeur is going to get his chance to do that for a second straight week, and hopefully he keeps playing well and he can just finish out the season with the job. I want to see more and learn more about him than I need to about Dillon Gabriel at this point. I had seen enough to sort of get a sense of who he was. Now we need to find out who Shedeur is, and we're going to get that opportunity as he starts against the 49ers this week. With all this said, I think it is okay for us to admit that Shedeur Sanders probably did need some time behind the scenes to work on some things, learn how to play at this level, and become a better player leader and quarterback in general with the work that he put in, even without those first team reps. So I'll explain what I mean a little bit deeper coming up in the Locked On Browns podcast. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports. There's bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2-player projections. Lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Creating a lineup takes less than a minute, and the app as a whole makes the process smooth and intuitive. And the new stacks feature allows you to choose the same player up to 3 times in one single lineup, like more on QB passing yards, touchdowns, or rushing yards. Plus, if your player leaves early with an injury, this is a game changer. The injury reboot feature saves your lineup. I wish other apps had that. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's going to be right. So as excited as I am, and I know many of you are, about Shedeur Sanders' performance and how he looked, I know that this has kind of sparked some conversations about whether or not the Browns should have done this sooner. And I've heard some people call into, local radio stations and on other platforms just talking about how what Shedeur did on Sunday proved that the Browns should have started him sooner. And listen, maybe those people are right. Maybe there is an argument to be made that if they had started him sooner, maybe they'd be 5-5. Maybe they'd be showing up on the In the Hunt graphic on all these national networks that carry NFL games. Maybe that would be the case. But I do, and I understand, like, this regime has lost a lot of trust with the fan base. They've lost a lot of trust in general. I don't know if people trust them to evaluate talent. Granted, this rookie class has been phenomenal. We got to talk about them coming up. But like, I do think at the end of the day, like, I am not a pure football talent evaluator. I didn't come up in that world. I don't know all the intricacies of what they look at. And I do think on some level, their assessment of where these two quarterbacks were at was probably right to a degree. Like, I do believe when they say that Dillon Gabriel mentally was maybe a little bit ahead of Shedeur Sanders, that could be true. And that they felt like Shedeur had to sort of work on some things behind the scenes coming out of the Big 12, where he didn't necessarily face the same talent as some other quarterbacks, and even Dillon Gabriel to an extent. It's okay to say, and this is where I want to say, like, two things can be true at once. Shedeur can be the more talented player. Shedeur could end up being the more talented quarterback. I believe he's going to be the more talented quarterback in this football league. I believe he has a chance to maybe even cement the starting job here for the Browns. And so that can be true, but it can also be true that he needed some time to just kind of get adjusted to the NFL, get acclimated, learn some things, work on some things behind the scenes in that building, work closely with coaches. And part of the reason I say this too is because I think Shedeur has even admitted himself that he feels like, he embraced, it was uncomfortable for him. He was very candid after the game on Sunday against the Raiders that he wasn't where he wanted to be for most of the last 7 months. He was a backup. He wasn't used to that. He wasn't playing. He wasn't used to that. It took some getting used to. He didn't like that feeling, but he's also talked about how, when Tyler Huntley was on this team back in training camp, how he learned a ton from him about just like being where your feet are, understanding your role, making the most of that role, and then your time will come. And that time finally came for him this past weekend. And I think, like, all those things, like all those baby steps along the way, the progression from being the number 4 quarterback to eventually now becoming the starter and staying as the starter, earning the right to keep that starting job. I think all the little steps along the way and everything he went through over the last 6 to 7 months to get himself to this point, I think went into him giving you that performance that he gave you yesterday, and him becoming potentially the player that we're all hopeful he can become. Because, like, and he had this great quote yesterday where it was like, not everybody starts from the same place. We all start in different places, something along those lines. And, it's about kind of like how you approach it. And he has approached it since the day he got here, from all accounts, with the right attitude, the right mindset. He's worked hard. He's focused solely and primarily on football. And he's just the one thing of all the things that you want, that some people might want to say about Shedeur Sanders, if you have things to knock him on, which I think is ridiculous if you do. But if you're somebody who maybe hasn't loved Shedeur, or he wasn't your guy coming out of the draft or whatever, fine. We all have our opinions. But the one thing you cannot criticize him for It's his work ethic and, frankly, his desire to be a great football player. Like, I compared this to when Johnny Manziel came in the mid 2010s. Um, and we know the backstory behind when he arrived, obviously, and how he put in no work. He didn't study. He did zero film study. He did not care, and he flamed out pretty quickly in this league. And the reason I compare him and Shedeur isn't because of that part of it, but because Johnny Manziel, similarly coming into the NFL, was a polarizing figure. He was one of the most lauded quarterbacks to ever come out of college and enter the NFL. And people celebrated him because he was fun to watch in college. He was so awesome. And Shedeur the same way. Like, he had this polarizing following of people and fans. And obviously he did some impressive things in college, set some records, like was super, super dominant at Colorado in many respects. And like it caught people's attention. He's the son of an NFL Hall of Famer. Like, that comes and brings its own sort of following with it as well. But the difference is that he came into the league and he has done everything, put in the work to try to be great, and Johnny Manziel didn't. And that's where I'm like, if you have bad things to say about him, I don't know where they come from, because all he's done is worked. All he's done is worked, and he's talked the talk. And yeah, he's shown some confidence, which maybe people don't like that mentality, and they feel like it comes off as cocky. I just think that that's what you would want your quarterback to say. You'd want your quarterback to have that sort of mentality, that he's going to be great, and that he's the guy, as he said pregame, that they've been waiting for. Like, I have no problems with that whatsoever. And so the fact that he's put in that work, the fact that he's trying to be great, like, he's taken whatever role he was in, and whether he liked it or not, and he's tried to run with it. He's tried to make the most of it, and it all accumulated to now he gets his chance to start, and he played well. He played a good football game. I'm not going to say it was great. I'm not going to say for sure he's the franchise quarterback, but I hope that it was the start of that. And if he continues to get better, and he continues, frankly, to work as hard as he's worked to this point, which I don't see that stopping anytime soon, I think there's a chance he can pan out to be the guy that everyone's been waiting for here in Cleveland, as he said he was. So, like, I can't say enough about that, but I also think it's fair to say, like, again, going back to, like, the two things can be true at once, that Shedeur could pan out. Shedeur could be a better player than Dillon Gabriel in this league. I think that's probably what happens here in the long run. But it can also be true that he needed that time to just grow and learn and correct some things and work. Like, that's okay to say. It's okay to feel like it was going to take some time here for him to kind of get acclimated and really understand everything he was trying to do. And he's talked about learning as much as he's learned throughout this first 6 and 7 months in the NFL with the Cleveland Browns, and all the different things that he's worked on, and how he's picked different things up. He talked about the quarterback position being hard and how those first team reps help, but that he's had to sort of learn some things. Like, it's okay to feel like it's okay to say that the Browns were right in trying to give him some time to sort of marinate and get used to this league and used to football at the NFL level, and learn the playbook and all those things, while also understanding that he could end up being the better player here. And that maybe he just needed some time. Like, it doesn't have to be that the Browns made the wrong choice here and starting Dillon before him, or that by keeping him lower on the depth chart to start things out. It just means that he got his opportunity. He worked hard to get there, and now hopefully he never has to give the job up again. I feel that way about it, because by all accounts, everything I've heard behind the scenes from people is that he did come in pretty raw, and that there was some stuff they just had to kind of coach out of him. And it looks like they've already corrected some of those things, because you saw it on the field tangibly in front of you during that game against the Raiders, where some of the problems that had plagued him on his college tape just weren't as big of issues in his first career start. And that's the most important thing here, is that he has taken whatever his path was to this point with the Browns. He has taken the knowledge, and he's been a sponge, and he's learning. He's gotten better already. And now if he keeps doing that, man, the sky could be the limit. Speaking of Shedeur, he's part of a rookie class that has just been phenomenal. And they all seem to have an imprint on the game yesterday against the Raiders. This group could honestly be saving a couple jobs here this offseason. We'll talk about it coming up in the Lockdown Browns podcast. The NFL season is obviously well back and underway. And honestly, there's no better place than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, price jumps to checkout. It's just a frustrating experience all around. That's why I use Gametime. And with Gametime, the app gives the advantage back to the fans. They became my go-to app for buying tickets. I kid you not, just last year. I bought tickets for my wife and I to go see Ohio State, Michigan, which, by the way, it's Ohio State, Michigan week this year. Maybe you want to go see the game and see if Ohio State can finally snap their losing streak against the vaunted Michigan Wolverines. Well, Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee, so go buy some tickets yourself. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best prices. Plus, all the fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I put up to Gametime, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. You can too. I'm talking about tickets to your favorite NFL games for as low as $100. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. So Shedeur is the headline this week, of course. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the fact that this rookie class continues to just dazzle. And listen, like if this has been a miserable season for you as a Browns fan, and I'm sure it has for many Browns fans, they're like the one thing that you've had to sort of cling to, other than maybe dreams of whatever draft capital this team ends up with, based on how the order falls and their record, whatever their record is, and how the Jaguars obviously finished their season and what that kind of looks like. But if that's all you've really had to cling to, the other thing you can sort of hang your hat on here as a Browns fan is the fact that this rookie class looks dominant and legit, and like they are going to be future cornerstone players for this team. I mean, you look up and down the box score, you go back and watch that game against the Raiders. It was like every step of the way, a rookie was making a play on both sides of the ball. Carson Schwesinger did his thing yet again, 10 tackles, just another ho-hum day at the office for him. He continues to dazzle as maybe the best, one of the best linebackers in football already as a rookie. Mason Graham, fifth overall pick that everyone's like, where's this guy been? Blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you, like the advanced numbers have said he's been there. He just maybe isn't finishing certain plays or getting all the glam stats that people keep track of, like sacks and all those different things. But I'm here to tell you, he was super impactful in this game against Vegas. He had a tackle for a loss, nearly had a sack in there. He broke up a pass deflection. Like he had 5 total tackles, but you felt his presence. He was blowing things up in the backfield. He was penetrating and making things very difficult for Geno Smith. You saw his impact beyond just the stat sheet and the box score and the efforts that he was giving. Harold Fannin Jr. We talk so much about Shedeur Sanders and that hungry dog session that he gets at the end of practice throughout most of his time here in Cleveland. Like that hungry dog session, the hungriest dog of this entire rookie class may just be Harold Fannin Jr. That dude is legit. He's so hard to tackle. Nobody can bring him down. He's learned maybe from David Njoku in that regard. I don't know. But that dude just fights for every yard, every inch, every play that he can possibly make. And he was super impactful, as I said, against the Raiders. He finished the game with the most catches overall, 4 for 40. He had a 17-yard catch as his long, and he became a little bit of a safety net for Shedeur Sanders at times throughout that game. Then you look at Dylan Sampson, 2 catches, 59 yards. He had the 66-yard screen pass, obviously, that really sealed the deal for the Browns to get out of there with a win. I mean, he's had some ups and downs this season. That's kind of that scat third down back for the Browns. But I'll tell you, like a play like that shows the potential that they see in him. It was blocked beautifully. He made it happen. He just burst through there and was able to sort of get through and make a big play. It was a great thing to see for him as another rookie making a major play and a major impact for this football team. But like it's another guy who touched the box score. I already talked about the throw to Isaiah Bond that everyone was gawking at, including Myles Garrett on the sidelines. Like another rookie to rookie connection there. Isaiah Bond, big play, his biggest play of his young career here with the Cleveland Browns. And then Quinshon Judkins, can't say enough about him. He's been great this season. Now the problem is they've had a hard time running the football, especially of late. And that sort of falls on the offensive line, and the fact that most of his yardage comes after contact because he's constantly being just kind of touched at the line of scrimmage. Only 2.9 yards per carry, but he had the 2 touchdowns. That wildcat formation has become like a comfort zone for him where he can just get the ball, run downhill, punch it in. He's scored 4 times with that play alone this season. Like, he's making a major impact. He's such an important piece of this offense. But you look up and down the box score, you check the scoring, and you see these rookies are the ones making the biggest impact week in and week out on this football team. And now you throw Shedeur Sanders into the mix. And all of a sudden, it's like, man, if Shedeur can become something, and he is the quarterback that they lean on and bank on being their starter next year, and they decide we're going to use those draft picks instead to bolster the roster around Shedeur Sanders. Let's just, hypothetically speaking here, let's just say this happens, right? Now you're talking about a rookie class where you found potentially your franchise quarterback. You have a top tier, a dominant running back that you can lean on for years to come. You have a defensive tackle and a linebacker sort of in the middle of that defense that can be anchors for you. You have another sort of back that's a change of pace guy coming out of the backfield. You maybe have a speedy wide receiver that I don't know if Isaiah Bond's ever going to be like a number 1, but I think he's like a nice 2 or 3 on this team that can help take the top off of defense and be a threat. So maybe he becomes something and finds a role for you. I have my doubts about Bond, becoming something major in this league, but again, if he can make some plays for you or be at least a weapon, that's nice to have that luxury as well. And it's like you go up and down this draft class. Harold Fannin Jr. is going to clearly be the tight end of the future here for this team. Guy that is so versatile. They use him in so many different ways, so many different plays, so many different formations. He can do so many different things. Like, he is going to be a force with this unit for years to come. It's remarkable to see. Like this class is going to go down as one of the best ever, if not the best. If one of these quarterbacks pans out as the franchise guy, it would be probably the best Browns draft class ever. Like, I don't think that's hyperbole to say, because when you find a franchise quarterback, you're always going to lean. You're always going to sort of weight that draft class differently, but combined with everything else and all the other talent that they brought in, how could it not be? How could it not be? I mean, you would have a bona fide just unit of players that are going to be cornerstones for this team and then getting back to their winning ways for years to come. And that is something that you as a Browns fan should be super excited about. The fact that you're seeing these foundational pieces already make an impact, and the future certainly looks bright with them. I'll also say this rookie class could be the reason why Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski don't get fired at the end of the year. I still don't know what's going to happen. After yesterday's win, I'm like back to being basically like 50-50 on it. Like 50% of me is like, anything can happen if this team, if that's the last one of the season, or if they only win one more game. I'm kind of circling that Titans game on the 7th as the next one that they probably have a good chance of winning potentially. Or is it the 6th? Whatever it is. If they only win one more game the rest of the way, I don't know that anybody's guaranteed to keep their job just because they beat some of the teams that they should beat, and they finished one game better than 500. Like, you win 7 games in 2 seasons. I think you're never guaranteed anything as a coach and a GM in this league. So part of me is like, if that happens, they could be gone because the record isn't good and they've taken steps back. But the other part of me is like, listen, if this rookie class keeps playing the way they're playing, and if they don't lose the locker room and they keep playing hard, you can start to see some of the success stories that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski now have sort of on their resume and their record here from this class, but also from some of the guys that are also being super impactful this year. Look at Grant Delpit. This is probably Grant Delpit's best season yet. And that's a guy that took some time to kind of find his footing, and now he's a really good player. Some people are saying I think he's at least going to be a Pro Bowler. Maybe he makes an All-Pro, gets an All-Pro nomination or in some capacity. We'll see. But like, he's having a great season. They just paid Alex Wright, who's having a solid season opposite of Myles Garrett on that defensive line. Like, you're starting to see some of those other success stories from Andrew Berry's previous draft classes, and now he knocked this rookie class out of the park. That could be enough to save his job and probably keep him and Kevin Stefanski around. If what Jimmy Haslam continues to say publicly about trusting these guys and feeling good about them leading the organization in the future are remain true, which at this juncture, I have no reason to believe that that's not how he feels. Again, at the end of the year, 4 wins, 3 wins could certainly be the difference and change your mind. in terms of how you feel about the future or anybody's job security with the team. But as things stand right now, I think like there's a really good chance, and that's the other thing. If Shedeur runs with these next 6 games and he just balls out and you keep seeing the progress made, and it looks like Stefanski's actually developing a quarterback here, like I don't know how he doesn't run it back with this group. Because then all of a sudden it's like, not only did you knock that class out of the park, but you maybe have your franchise quarterback. And let's see what you do with another year of draft picks, especially 2 first-rounders to keep building this roster. I think you would probably want to see that through at this point. All of these GMs and coaches get linked to whatever quarterback they tie themselves to, and that would be what you're doing with Shedeur Sanders here if that's how it plays out over the course of these next 6 games. So a lot sort of at stake, I think, down the stretch of the season here, especially for those 2 guys. And I know like it's coming off a week where you win and everything that, vibes are kind of good around the team right now. I'm not trying to insinuate that I think they're 100% safe. A lot can change even in 6 weeks, but I think as things stand right now, like if these guys are back next year, they are going to be, they should be groveling at the feet of this rookie class. If they're still around next year, because I think frankly that group, and again, if Shedeur soars from here, especially, that group's going to probably be the big reason they are retained, if they are retained by the end of the season. So we'll have plenty more to talk about this week as we get ready for Shedeur Sanders' second career start. Plus, Lance Reisland's going to join us on Tuesday to break down some of the tape on Shedeur's first start, what he liked, what he saw, how he thought it went, and of course, that dominant defensive effort will be a subject as well. If you like what you heard, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make Locked On Browns your first listen every day, wherever you get your podcasts, and at the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. For your second listen, make sure you check out Locked On NFL with Tyler the Madman Rowland and Tony Wiggins. You can find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is now the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Super proud of that. You can also keep it local. Check out Locked On Cavs, Locked On Guardians. Thank you for being an everydayer at the Locked On Podcast Network. I will talk to you again on Tuesday with Lance Reisland joining me. Talk to you then, Cleveland.